5, 4, 3. Hello! I'm drinking a tasty Ecto Cooler on now a Thursday night, and that can only mean one thing. It's a very special childhood night. It's the Natty Brohs podcast, Childhood Cartoon Power Rankings Edition. I'm Zach Brooks.
And I'm Anthony D'Angelo. Coming up on the pod, your childhood in one giant podcast. We rank all of your favorite childhood cartoons. Well, if you're about our age. And we have a very special guest, Jeremy Exell, my former roommate, Zach's current roommate, all around jawsome guy.
Totally jawsome. Hashtag jawsome. If you're still with us.
But before we get too far, our usual house business. Visit us www.nattybrohs.com.
Do you still need the www?
You know what? Let's go with it. You know, we're talking about, the 90s, right? So let's really dig into the nostalgia. You should throw some World Wide Web up on there.
Log into AOL.
Yeah, it's AOL keyword. AOL keyword Natty Brohs. You can follow us on Twitter at Natty Brohs. Email us nattybrospodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Vine. Subscribe to us on iTunes.
And Anthony and I, if you're watching on the live stream, you can see our Twitter handles right below us. Follow us on Twitter, right below us. Below Anthony, below me.
Yeah.
So, let's get down to business, guys. Last night, on Wednesday, the three of us spent a solid 2 hours discussing and power ranking the best cartoons of our childhood.
Yeah. That happened. That happened.
We ended the podcast. We were all excited. It was really good, we thought. And come to find out, YouTube, did not record the first hour of the podcast. Devastating.
Just pretty much the worst thing that's ever happened to humanity. So.
Pretty much. So, we want to provide you, the listener, the experience of hearing the top 35, 34 cartoons power ranked and put out there, and we are going to still deliver that. So what we've done is we went back through the magic of Google Docs, figured out the order they were pulled last night, and went through the TV shows that were not included in the recording, that were cut out of the recording. So we went through each of these, made a list. We're going to pull them in the same order they were pulled until we end up at the point where the YouTube catches up, and then we're going to do a little fancy editing and make this into one giant podcast if you're listening on the audio, and we're going to try to make one giant video on YouTube as well. It'll be an experiment. We want to be transparent here for you, the listeners, on the Natty Brohs podcast.
The sausage making is never fun, but the sausage is so tasty. So.
Oh, you got to put a little mustard on it, a little sauerkraut. Jeremy, what do you prefer on your sausages?
I go with the mustard and the sauerkraut, and it's always good to throw in some jalapenos. Add a little zing to it.
Zesty.
That's right. It's never good unless it's zesty.
All right.
Well, let's get right into starting these rankings with some discussion topics. And these rankings, if you did listen to our sandwich podcast that Anthony and I did with Stan a couple months back, where we did the same thing. We ranked the best sandwiches of all time. We won't reveal what the winner was, but we will kind of allude to that sandwich podcast throughout the night. And you can find that on nattybrohs.com if you want to listen to that again.
Great.
So, yeah. So let's talk about our criteria for making the Childhood Cartoons podcast. Now, all of us are about the same age. We're late 20s, early 30s. And we wanted to talk about the cartoons that were an influential part of our childhood. And we will get down to those. We have 34 or 35 that we will be going through tonight. And last night. It's all like a future Back to the Future thing. It's weird.
Yeah.
Meta.
So the years that we covered, Zach, were
1989 to 1994. So that puts me about age 4 to 9, and you guys about what, age 6 to 11?
Yeah.
Yeah, about there.
Yeah. We figured that was the most seminal moments in our lives as children watching cartoons.
Yeah.
Now, of course, that does cut out some 80s cartoons and some late 90s cartoons. Cuts out SpongeBob, Recess. I know, I'm sorry, Jeremy.
It's a killer.
Yeah.
Cuts out Care Bears, which had some fantastic movies. Did you guys like Care Bears growing up?
I did. I had a Care Bear that I probably still have in my parents' house.
Care Bear stare.
It was fantastic.
The Care Bears, and they had the movies. I really liked the movies of the Care Bears. Also cuts out Transformers, the cartoon.
Yeah.
That's just
Wow.
Cuts out He-Man. He-Man
Yep.
was one of those shows I was not allowed to watch as a child. We had a He-Man Betamax tape, and my mother took that tape away and told me it was broken.
why?
Because it was too violent.
It was okay, but you. No, never mind. What other cartoons were you allowed to watch then?
Well, I mean, when He-Man was out and we had Betamax, I was probably 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So I was more in the Care Bears those years. But I did walk around the house saying He-Man broken like a little kid. I want to go back and tell myself that's not true.
It's all a lie.
He-Man was never broken.
I wish we had a clip of that to play on the pod.
I know, right?
This is actually more of like a group therapy session than it is a Power Rankings podcast.
Yeah.
So, there'll be a lot of crying over the course of this. Just bear with us. We'll get through the tears.
Thanks a lot, Mom. Most of all, though, the one that we cut out is Hulk Hogan's cartoon.
Thunder in Paradise?
No, although, damn, that was a good show.
Yes, it was!
No, so, the Hulkster had a cartoon on for 2 seasons. I run it 26 episodes. All of your favorite, good and bad guys were there, from, Andre the Giant, and, Iron Sheik.
Team Sheiky.
Team Sheiky. So some fantastic characters there. But it was on too early for our purposes. So, if you're a little older and you want to put together a, maybe an early to mid 80s cartoon podcast, by all means. But that's not what we're doing right here. Not what we're doing. I think one of the things that we need to talk about, and there's some other cartoons that we're going to exclude. Your PBS educational cartoons, Magic School Bus, for example. Great in its own light, absolutely fantastic. Doesn't really belong in this set. We had a conversation, and not to spoil too much about the sandwich podcast, but about one kind of sandwich that we didn't take into account because, well, it's just not fair. And that was the hamburger in The Simpsons, which is still running. It's kind of like the hamburger of cartoons. We're not including The Simpsons in this Power Rankings.
Yeah, we really felt that The Simpsons, while it's a fantastic cartoon, obviously, just really blew everything else. It just wasn't a fair comparison.
No.
And so we're going to leave that out. We're not going to include that one tonight. The Simpsons is a great show on its own, obviously. It's got a great iPad game if you're into iPads.
Yeah, and look, we can have an entire podcast on various Simpsons Power Rankings, from one-time characters to best seasons, to best episodes. There's a lot of material there, but we're not going to crab juice.
I thought it was clam juice.
Crab juice.
Well, let us know if you're listening. Which one was it? Was it crab juice or clam juice?
It was crab juice.
Use the hashtag crab juice or the hashtag clam juice.
Mark Donnelly is going to be so pissed at you for screwing that up. Crab juice.
Tweet us at Natty Brohs with the hashtag clam juice or crab juice with the correct answer.
Team Crab Juice.
Team crab juice. But yeah, we want this to be fair, and we want it to be childhood cartoons.
Yeah. So, I think the important question here is, how are we measuring these, right? Because, again, we're talking 34, 35 different cartoons, and, how exactly do you determine which is number one and, well, which has the unfortunate distinction of being 34? And so I think there are a couple different metrics that we talked a little bit about last night that I think are worth bringing back up. So one is the initial entertainment value while you watch the show, right? And then also, is it still entertaining now, right? Zach and Jeremy, do you want to talk about some of the other ones?
Yeah, so, I think marketability is a big one as well. It wasn't a show that had a lot of movies that came from it, most of all toys, Happy Meals, lunch boxes. That will definitely play in. If it was a show that was popular but you didn't see toys for it, then it wasn't as influential in our time.
Yeah, and we also factored in, of course, theme song. You gotta go in with how catchy the theme song is, and also if it's a show that everybody talks about at school. Like you show up to school next day, didn't watch the episode last night. Are you a loser?
Are you a loser, or were you a loser for watching it? That also factors in, but definitely theme song and just intro scene in general as well. We'll definitely touch on that, and we scoured the internet for the best shows and scoured our memories most of all for the best shows. We want to bring you a comprehensive list. So guys, in this hat, I have 34 to 35 TV shows. And I'm going to pull them in the order we pulled them last night. We'll kind of discuss where we ranked them last night and how it fits in. And then about midway through this podcast, we'll give you a little heads up that we'll be switching to the feed from last night. So it'll be a little circular logic for you.
I believe we'll all change clothes for those of you watching.
We will change clothes. It'll be magical, like Superman.
What?
All right, pulling the first one out of the hat. And our first cartoon.
Oh man, that was such a good start.
DuckTales.
DuckTales.
Woo!
So, I know this ended up being, this is going to go high on the board. I know that this, Zach, is theme song wise your favorite.
It is one of my favorite theme songs, and just rightfully so.
Yeah. I mean, it's a strong cartoon. I honestly don't remember any plot about this, but I would say if there was any cartoon that has kind of molded my lifelong dream of diving into a pile of money, it would be this cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
That or money. Really.
Both diving into and owning a pile of money, preferably gold coins. So it's pretty influential.
I just remembered something that a character from this that we totally forgot to mention in our discussion last night.
Which is?
The janitor. Do you remember how the janitor would turn into like a robo-duck or something like that, and he would turn into a superhero version?
I do, kind of.
And he had a tire. He didn't walk around. He had like a tire, and it was like a wheel that he would roll around on, and he had lasers and everything, and then the Huey, Dewey, and Louie would ride around on him and fight crime.
See,
sort of. He was a
I don't remember that at all. Yeah.
I remember that from the video game, which we also, of course, have to talk about when we talk about marketability. The DuckTales video game was impossible.
I don't know. I never played the DuckTales game.
It was for Nintendo, and I've still played. I played like emulators of it, like on my computer, and it is so hard. It is ridiculously hard.
I really think that the Game Boy especially was such a perfect system for these, for like especially like the Disney cartoons, and we'll talk about one of them later on in the pod, which is Darkwing Duck, but like. I feel like all these games all these cartoons had fantastic games. So you were always kind of immersed in the cartoon, and I feel like DuckTales was one of the quintessential ones where you were just always somehow watching.
DuckTales also got serious points for the movie. The movie of DuckTales was fantastic. Do you guys
I
remember
don't.
that?
I remember it coming out. I don't remember the movie.
It was basically the story of Aladdin. They had a genie and they had wishes. But it came out before Aladdin, so DuckTales, woohoo, baby.
Woohoo, indeed.
Who did you identify with the most, Huey, Louie, or Dewey?
I honestly don't remember which one was which. I think the one in the blue, but only because I liked blue a lot.
That was Huey.
That was Huey. I honestly can't remember.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I also feel like that wasn't really. I don't remember ever having that discussion as a kid, and I feel like and this isn't something that we really talked about last night, but the which character is which person in a group conversation.
Anthony, did you freeze?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh. Jeremy, did he freeze?
Yeah, I heard a freeze.
Okay.
So which character was which?
Yeah, no. Yeah, so I feel like that kind of like it was like going viral before there was like a going viral, right? Like the ability of having a diverse set of characters where like you could have that conversation in the lunchroom about like which person is which. Like I think is a good a measure of a good show, and I don't really remember that with DuckTales.
True, because they were so similar. The other point I will
Yeah.
bring up before we move on from DuckTales is DuckTales anti-Semitic?
Why would it be anti-Semitic?
Because of Scrooge McDuck and his economic views.
Yeah, but like I don't like if anything it would be kind of like anti-Irish because it's like McDuck. If it was like
True.
if it was like Scrooge Duckburg or like Scrooge Duckstein, like yeah, I'd be like, wow, that's a messed up stuff. But no, I think that I never really got the sense that Scrooge was Jewish. So
All
I
right,
don't.
well, that's good.
Yeah. So
I guess he's based off of Scrooge from The Christmas Carol.
Yep.
yeah.
So he's really a grumpy British guy.
Go duck yourself.
Yeah.
Go. Go.
So, we're, I guess, just going to say where we ranked this last night.
Yeah.
For the sake of consistency and
Yep.
having everything set up. So last night we ranked DuckTales at number 5.
Solid.
And this was the first one. We placed it on the board. It's at number 5. And also we should point out that we have the scoreboard set up, just like the Sandwich Podcast, in tiers. So there's Tier 1, which is 1 through 15, Tier 2, which is 16 through 30, and then off the board, which is 30 through 34. So this is a Tier 1 show, a high Tier 1 at rank number 5. You guys ready to move on to number 2?
Let's do it. Get
All
it
right.
done.
This was one that is a lot of fun. It's all about some more animals. They're not ducks, though. They're aquatic. They're not ducks. They're sharks. And this one is about street sharks.
Hashtag Jawsome.
Hashtag Jawsome. Jeremy, do you want to explain Jawsome? Jawsome Jeremy?
Yeah.
So
Provide some context.
there was two things that I remembered about street sharks from childhood. One is that they would actually dive into concrete and swim through the concrete with their fins sticking above, just like a shark swimming through the water. And number two is that they said Jawsome. That was their catchphrase. Just like the Ninja Turtles had Rad and Bodacious, street sharks had Jawsome.
I mean, yeah, I don't know why you choose Rad and Bodacious over Cowabunga, but that's that's your prerogative. I didn't realize that this was on for 3 seasons, which I thought was pretty interesting. Also, I love how I mean, you're talking about some really in shape sharks, but they ate a lot of fast food,
Mm-hmm.
which I felt was
Wait, did they
I-
really? So this show was a complete rip-off of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Basically.
pretty much. So, according to the Wikipedia page, one of the characters' favorite catchphrases was "Jawsome." Their favorite food consists of hamburgers, hot dogs, and French fries. The brothers also have expressed an obvious and very vocal dislike for pizza, a nod towards the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, who yada 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 pizza. So,
So yeah, they ripped off Ninja Turtles completely.
yeah.
The only thing I remember about Street Sharks well is that the toys were like kind of big and they were like vulcanized rubber toys.
Yeah, and it was definitely during that era where like nobody's arms could ever touch their sides because their
Yeah.
muscles were so big. So like it was just like this. Um, you know, I don't know. And this is this is going to be placed towards the very end of the list. Um, I don't know. I really don't remember a whole lot from this, and it really didn't have that big of an impact.
So, does anybody else have comments about this before we reveal the ranking?
Nope.
All right. Well, so last night we ranked this at number 29, which
Yeah.
is one up from the bottom of the tier 2. And I think that's deserving. I might actually say a little lower looking back on it, just initially ranking it lower, only because I didn't realize the direct ripoff of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is a little ridiculous. But, 29, it's on the board. And they had the sweet catchphrase of Jawsome, which,
Yeah.
if you're still watching, throughout the night you can use the hashtag Jawsome, and it's on Jeremy's screen.
Yeah.
Hashtag Jawsome.
And you can call him Jawsome Jeremy if you want.
There it is.
Double J.
Double J.
Maybe
All right,
I'll
well,
go
let's-
first in the NBA draft. Who knows?
You never know. I mean, anybody can go first in the NBA draft, apparently.
Yeah.
Well, the next show that we're going to discuss is a Fox Saturday morning cartoon. This show had some great cameos from stars, and starred one Howie Mandel,
Ah,
and it was Bobby's World. It was all about a little boy, Bobby, and his world. What was Bobby's last name? Does anybody remember? Was it?
generic.
Generic.
And they always messed it up and called him Bobby Generic,
There it is.
Yeah.
because he was a generic kind of dude.
Exactly.
He had a big head.
So we were talking about this last night, and the only thing that any of us really could remember from this show was Bobby riding his big wheel around.
Well, I mean, there was that, and then my assumption that his uncle was an alcoholic for some reason.
And then his mother was, very Jewish. I do remember his mother's voice. But this was a solid show, right?
Yeah, it was a great show.
What did his
Yeah.
mother say? Don't you know? Wasn't that her catchphrase?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh, don't you know?
Yeah.
Yes. Well,
She also
and
sounded like Sarah Palin.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
and one of the great recurring characters was voiced by Pauly Shore, who just had a fantastic run during this time.
Wait, one of the characters in Bobby's World was Pauly Shore?
Yeah.
I did not realize that.
Yeah, so the boyfriend of one of Bobby's sister was voiced by Pauly Shore. George.
That
Oh, yeah.
is interesting. I didn't realize that. And
Wow.
we will touch on Pauly Shore again very soon in another cartoon.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Let's not blow our Pauly Shore load with Bobby's World.
Well, so, so we ended up putting this at 14. In retrospect, do you think that that's about where it should have gone?
I mean, in retrospect, maybe it should be lower, but it's early in the podcast.
Yeah.
Right now, I think it's it's definitely not higher than DuckTales, but it is higher than Street Sharks.
Oh, without a doubt. And
Totally.
This was on the air for 8 seasons. Had 81
Longevity.
episodes. Yep.
Not much marketability though. I don't remember any Bobby's World toys.
or even like swag. Like I don't remember any like Bobby's World like backpacks or lunchboxes or anything like
How
that.
awesome were backpacks with TV characters on them?
They're the best.
They were the coolest
absolutely
thing
the
ever.
best.
Yep. Um, and I just think that the show it did its job. It had Howie Mandel before Deal or No Deal.
Back when he still had hair.
Yeah. So yes, we rank this at 14.
Yeah.
There will be a little bit of battling between Bobby's World and other shows, I would imagine, moving forward.
Without a doubt. All right.
So our next show that we went over, we're going back to a Disney cartoon, another one that was about some animals, some wildlife, and one that I think we were all fans of, and that's Gummy Bears.
Mm.
Well,
Here and there, bouncing everywhere.
Where?
They are the Gummy Bears.
So, this show was on for 6 seasons, had 94 episodes, was on both NBC and ABC, was kind of split up, was on for 4 years on NBC.
But the weird thing was that Jeremy and I both remember it from Disney Channel.
Yeah.
And it was syndicated later on Disney. So, I mean, I think the fact that, that Disney brought it back, obviously on its own channel, and saw it as strong enough to bring it back, I thought was, it definitely, it boosts the cred of Gummy Bears here.
And I don't remember a ton. There was a bad guy. There was some conflict. Definitely marketable. Had the candy, even though I think the candy probably came first. I think the big thing with me was that I loved Gummy Bears because I got to watch it when I had Disney Channel, and I didn't always have Disney Channel growing up. But it was a big moment in my life when the cable guy came to install Disney Channel when I was a little kid. I remember that. Little did I know how much I would hate Comcast, whatever they were called back then.
Oh my gosh. And this is another example of a show with a good theme song.
Great theme song.
I have no memories of watching this show, but I still know the theme song to this show.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is my question, and we ended up putting this, I think, at 6. Yeah.
Yep, right below DuckTales.
So my question here is, if this had an awful, let's say it just had like a generic theme song,
Yeah.
would this be at 6?
No.
It would be like lower top tier, right?
Yeah.
I mean, is
For
there
me.
is there a better example of a show that was carried by its theme song than Gummy Bears?
Mm.
I and I'm just gonna play a little of it.
Just like caring.
Faithful and friendly with stories to share. All through the forest they sing out in chorus.
Yeah.
As long as their song is sweet.
They're bouncing along.
Gummy bears. High adventure that we all compare. They are the gummy bears.
I mean, that song could have been on the radio, right?
Oh,
Oh, I mean, when we were kids, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I also want to talk about gummy berry juice because I feel like did they sell this like did they sell this like an ecto cooler or like a juice box? And if they didn't, why didn't they?
I don't think they did.
Like, what in the hell was stopping somebody from
That's a
selling
good
me
point.
gummy berry juice? Like, the whole show is predicated on the fact that if something went wrong, they just took this juice and
And
they
hit 50 home runs. I mean,
Yeah.
stop the bad guys.
yeah, right? Like, so why wasn't this marketed towards me? I feel a little offended.
I think because they were so focused on marketing the candy.
But like, you got to be able to walk and sell juice at the same time. I mean, that's not an excuse. I mean, there evidently was. I mean, beyond the marketability, beyond the theme song, there was also a lot of there's at least according to Wikipedia, there's a lot of significance to the show, and I'll briefly go through some of it. So I guess this was Disney's first major serialized animated television series, which meant that like this opened the door to everything else, right? So from Darkwing Duck to DuckTales and Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, to Tailspin and Gargoyles, like this was the first. So when you think about it, if this one just completely flops, maybe we don't get Darkwing Duck, Tailspin,
That's a good
Chip and Dale
point.
Rescue Rangers.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something to think about.
I mean, for me, this gets a lot of points for novelty value, a lot of points for intro, and points for kind of it was hard to find. I feel like I could always find other shows, but it was hard for me to find when Gummy Bears aired. So it gets points for that.
That's fair enough. I mean, I also feel like it was a lot harder to know when shows. Well, I mean, you had to kind of just know when shows were on back then, or you had to look in the paper. Does anybody else remember like looking in the newspaper to see when shows would be on?
Yes.
Or trying to find movie listings in the paper, too.
Oh yeah.
How about the? You remember when McDonald's first started doing the Monopoly game and they had all the inserts where you could get the free tabs?
I mean, I could do a whole podcast on Monopoly game at
Yeah.
McDonald's.
I used to steal the inserts. I was a Sunday paper delivery
You're on the
boy.
internet, Jeremy. Don't say these things. You're not anonymous.
It was a misunderstanding.
I was 10.
You're gonna get turned down for jobs because they're gonna saw you on YouTube saying that you stole out of.
I stole inserts from Sunday morning papers.
I had no idea you had this side of you, Jeremy.
I did. It was evil. It was pure evil. I never won anything. It made it even worse.
No, the Monopoly game was rigged. Okay, so not to get too off topic.
Yeah.
But I heard that the Monopoly game, what they would do is they would release half the pieces on the East Coast, and the other half the pieces on the West Coast.
Oh, those
So there was
tricky,
almost no way you could get like pieces that matched because they
those
would be
tricky
on-
SOBs.
Yeah.
Unless you do a lot of like multi-coast traveling, like which is totally possible.
Yeah, but if you're doing multi-coast traveling, you're probably not playing the Monopoly game. You probably have enough money that you don't need to play the Monopoly game.
I don't know. I mean, if you're, I've eaten a good deal at McDonald's at airports.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure airports were exempt from this. That makes it way too easy.
I feel like you have like a whole pamphlet of conspiracy theories surrounding this.
I am my brother's brother.
Well, so did we ever figure out where we put at number 6, right?
Number 6, one below DuckTales. They kind of go together. They fit together. We'll see if they stay together for the rest of the pod.
I think we're all happy with that.
Cool. The next one that we will be pulling out of the hat. Drum roll, please. Remember we did the drum roll for the first one last night, and then we didn't do it again.
Yeah, fun. Well, what do you got to do?
YOLO.
What?
Batman, the animated series.
Oh man, this is one I pushed for.
Batman the animated series was good. It was a good dark show.
It had the voice of Mark Hamill as the Joker.
Mark Hamill, he of Star Wars fame.
Yeah,
Luke
Luke Skywalker was a villain.
I mean, it had some really good bad guys too. It had Clayface, Scarecrow, Penguin.
Yeah,
the giant bat.
The Bat. And I definitely remember the toys from this show.
Yep.
I feel like I remember the toys from the animated series after Batman Returns, I feel like had the most toys, and then the animated series.
Yeah, I mean,
fair. Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say that this it had a nice variety of villains. I think it again it was definitely one of the darker cartoons. Although I did watch last night after we potted, and I don't think we're going to talk about X-Men, so I can talk a little bit about it now. I did watch a couple of X-Men episodes last night after we finished, and I will say it is a lot darker than I remembered. like like I can't imagine watching it as a child, but I just enjoyed every second of it. So I would imagine that going back and watching Batman would be very much the same.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good one. I was actually talking to a friend today, and just talking to him about these rankings, and his first question was, "Where did you rank Batman the Animated Series?"
Yeah.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
this is a hot button issue, and last night, I mean, I still think it was fair. We ranked this at number 10.
Yeah, and look, I mean it's still a top tier, cartoon.
Still in the top tier.
I don't like, and I think as you see the rest of these cartoons kind of come out, I think you'll realize that it's still a very strong showing. There's a lot of other good stuff ahead of it.
There are a lot of good ones coming, and I mean, number 10 is really number 3 right now on our rankings.
Yeah.
And I'm going to show our rankings, kind of where we're at. You're looking at a revision history of Google Docs. So coming in at number 5 right now, we have DuckTales, followed by number 6, Gummy Bears, number 10, Batman the Animated Series, number 14, Bobby's World, and scrolling down, we have number 29, Street Sharks.
Woo!
Nothing off the board just yet, but this tier is going to keep filling up, and it's going to get crazy, right?
Totally
Gonna-
crazy.
It's gonna get crazy.
It's gonna get weird.
Gonna get cray-cray. All right, let's move on to our next one, our 6th pull of the night. We got a Nickelodeon cartoon, Rocko's Modern Life.
Oh man.
My first question, and I asked this last night, what was so modern about Rocko's life?
So I think, and it's funny if you Google Rocko's Modern Life, the third link that comes up is a link from College Humor that's the 40 dirtiest jokes from Rocko's Modern Life. I don't know what was so modern about his life. I really I remember the show. I remember watching the show quite a bit. I don't really remember much of the plot. But
Yeah.
again, I mean, this was. I feel like this was one of the first shows that was kind of directly marketed to kids, but also very subtly marketed to adults. And and we discussed this a bit last night. A lot of the writing staff after Rocko's Modern Life went off the air went to go start SpongeBob.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
so
Makes sense.
This was from a significance perspective was important because it helped launch kind of the next big generation cartoon. But from at the time, from a relevance and marketability perspective,
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to give it points for being, appealing to adults as well as kids. But I never rushed home to watch Rocko's Modern Life.
I feel like it was on at a very good time in the Nickelodeon lineup, and I just watched it because I think there was other stuff on around then.
Was Rocko's Modern Life part of like the Stickly Nickelodeon stuff?
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Remember Stickly? It was on after school.
Yeah.
I feel like he might have been after all of this, but what a great idea! They're just like, we're
I
gonna
think he
take a
was
popsicle
after.
stick, and we're gonna make this our host. It's better than they have on ESPN for a lot of shows.
Yeah, I think it was, but because I vaguely remember some of that, but I'm not entirely sure. So again, I know I'm referencing a lot of Wikipedia here, but so I guess this is part of Nickelodeon's attempt to lure away some Beavis and Butthead viewers.
Huh.
Which is fairly interesting. But again, it's pretty unique when you look at the other cartoons that we have here. Like I feel like it's definitely very different from you look at the ones that we the the 5 other ones that we talked about, DuckTales, Street Sharks, Bobby's World, Gummy Bears, and Batman.
Yeah.
Very different.
I feel like there's only one kind of close comparison to Rocko's Modern Life that'll be coming later. So, well,
Yeah.
you know what, we decided on this that it was one better than Bobby's World, so we ranked it number 13. So top tier for now and above Bobby's World. Cool. So let's move on. You know, we've seen a lot of Disney cartoons, and Disney has been doing very well. And I think Disney is going to continue doing well because we have a very solid Disney cartoon. Chip and Dale.
Rescue Rangers.
Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. Rescue Rangers.
This is one of my favorites from when I was growing up.
I mean, this shot's at the top of my board right away.
Yep.
Shot. I mean, this was a great show. Great adventures. They lived in that like hive or something, like a beehive or I don't know what it was, some weird house. There was Monterey Jack, who got very turned on by cheese, and his mustache would fill with blood and get hard. I mean, like Monterey Jack, it was kind of a little adult, don't you think? His mustache with cheese.
I don't think you know how mustaches work, but okay, we'll go with it. You know, this really made me. I had and I think I still have an old Bombers jacket that my dad and my grandfather used to have, and like this always made me really happy to wear it because you know Chip like made the bomber jacket really cool when I was a kid. So, but
one of them was kind of silly, and one of them was kind of a jerk, right? Chip was the jerk, and Dale was silly. Is that correct?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Dale was the one with the Hawaiian shirt on.
Yeah, and so Dale modeled after Magnum PI, and Chip modeled after Indiana Jones.
Really?
Yep.
There you are.
That is only the kind of exclusive news you get when we have our chief cartoon correspondent, Jeremy Exell, on. I don't know if we introduced you as that earlier, but
That's
chief cartoon correspondent.
I have little bits of knowledge every now and then, and you know that's one of them. I can share with you all.
I would even venture to say that knowledge was Jawsome.
That was awesome.
Oh my goodness! Oh my goodness!
So I mean, Chip and Dale fits all the categories, right? It's got staying power. I would watch it now still. It was great when we were little kids. It was Disney, which is really doing well. Disney is like the SEC so far of this Power games. It had marketability. It had toys, characters, and I had all kinds of Chip and Dale stuff. And it kind of had the in jokes for adults.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, I mean, you know, this had I think a couple different games for NES and for Game Boy.
Also, another show that had very, very hard video games.
Yeah, incredibly hard.
And the bad guys, they had Fat Cat, probably something about capitalism there maybe, or about cats,
or about just like obese cats, like an anti-obese cat agenda, probably.
Just anti-cats in general. I mean, it does lose a couple points for the anti-cat thing, but overall, it's the best one we've pulled so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think without a doubt, you know, it was. I think it's the most well-rounded cartoon that we've, you know, slightly above DuckTales, but I think it's the most well-rounded cartoon that we've talked about.
Yeah, and last night when we ranked this, we put this one top of the list, top of the table, top of the tier. Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers #1.
Oh, the good days.
Yeah.
The good days of #1.
And Zip the bee or whatever.
The Fly.
The Fly.
Yep.
He was best friends with Monterey Jack.
I would hang out with Monterey Jack. I would love to get a beer with Monterey Jack. Preferably not somewhere where they served anything with cheese, though.
I mean, you really seem to be hung up on this mustache thing. But
I said nothing about the mustache. So. Well, you know, our next one, the 8th cartoon that we were pulling tonight, another very solid cartoon, and let's just discuss it right now. It's time for Animaniacs.
Come join the Warner Brothers.
So, you know, I want I want to immediately put up that we put this at number 2 behind Chip and Dale, and it stayed very high on the board throughout. And I want to start off by saying that because, in retrospect, I almost think that we shortchanged this a little bit because, I mean, this show was. It was so unique because it was a skit show. It was almost like a kid's Saturday Night Live, like a kid's cartoon SNL, right? Because I mean, you had all these great, side characters that were regularly occurring, and it was funny when you were a kid. You go back and you watch the skits now, it still is because, I mean, so many of these characters had pretty adult kind of counterparts. I mean, the Goodfeathers, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
Like, not a lot of kids probably watching Goodfellas, but the Goodfeathers were just kind of funny, right? And then you add on to the fact that this spawned Pinky and the Brain.
Yep. And they had Bill Clinton referenced in the theme song.
They did have Bill Clinton referenced in the theme song.
Yeah.
You're right.
And Dana Delaney. They had actress Dana Delaney referenced in the theme song,
Yeah.
which I always thought was.
This show had a ton of great references to Hollywood and to current events and pop culture. Just a very smart show that kids would like, adults would like. Had great music. Spawned another show. I mean, it's just a very, very solid show. And it was educational too. If you look at some of the songs, they had like a president's song. They had this state capitals one. I don't know if you guys remember this.
50 states and their capitals.
Okay. Here goes.
Long intro.
Louisiana, Indianapolis, Indiana, and Columbus is the capital of Ohio. There's Montgomery, Alabama, south of Helena, Montana. Then there's Denver, Colorado, under Boise, Idaho. Texas has Austin, then we go north to Massachusetts, Boston, and Albany, New York, Tallahassee, Florida, and Washington, D.C., Santa Fe, New Mexico, and Nashville, Tennessee. Elvis used to hang out there a lot,
I mean, just a solid song. The Animaniacs theme song was great.
Countries of the World.
No other show coined the phrase "Hello, Nurse" quite like Animaniacs did.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So I mean, this is the thing, and I know that our rankings are set in stone. I kind of feel like we shortchanged Animaniacs a little bit. I feel like that it was somewhat ahead of its time. It was a lot more brilliant than I think we're giving it credit for. I don't know if it was it marketable?
Very.
I think it wasn't marketable, and that's why it
They had. I remember getting toys in McDonald's Happy Meals for all the Animaniacs.
yeah, and I had the soundtrack.
I guess it was marketable.
Yeah.
I just, I mean, beyond the fact that the whole show was marketing, right? The Warner Brothers, like, the characters were a corporation. What was it marketable? It was marketing. It was like orange juice concentrate marketing. So, I don't know. I think it was fantastic. Again, we put it at number 2 at the time.
Right below Chip and Dale.
Right below it.
And yeah, we can't really change these, but yeah, I agree with you. It may have been shortchanged, but you got to rank them somehow.
Yep.
And I feel like for me, when I think of childhood cartoons, I think of Chip and Dale before I think of Animaniacs.
We make the hard decisions here on the Natty Brohs podcast.
But let us know. You tweeted us at Natty Brohs. Let us know. Chip and Dale or Animaniacs?
or whatever.
Go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
Well, this next one, going back to the Disney well again. I don't know if this came before or after the movie. I don't remember what we figured out last night. Starring your favorite and mine, Goofy, we had Goof Troop.
So, I think I talked about this last night. I really don't remember watching this show at all. I barely remember its existence. So for me, I mean, this this kind of warrants the 25 ranking that we gave it.
Yeah.
Second tier, like low part of the second tier.
Yeah.
But we did have an amazing voice character.
And that was Pauly Shore again. After
was Pauly Shore in the show or just the movie?
Yeah.
I thought he was only in the movie.
So I think either way, because the show the show came before the movie. So I mean I think either way you're looking at some sort of Pauly Shore influence here. But
I mean, Pauly Shore is one of my guilty pleasures. I love Pauly Shore movies. I'm a huge fan.
So I'm not. Wow, this is actually a bit of a buzzkill because I don't think he was actually in the show itself.
But he was in the movie, and the show spawned the movie.
Yeah. So all right, I mean it's 2 degrees of Pauly Shore here. I'm totally fine with that.
I'm great with 2 degrees of Pauly Shore, 4 degrees, whatever. I mean, we kind of dove into this last night, but like Pauly Shore was kind of the king of the '90s of those movies, those really slapstick, ridiculous movies. If I had to do a power rankings of Pauly Shore movies, number 1 we got Biodome, followed by Jury Duty, then Son-in-Law. I know a lot of people like Encino Man, but that doesn't make it into my top 3 Pauly Shore.
I just what I would say is I would go I would probably go Encino Man, In the Army Now, Biodome. A Goofy movie was actually one of his most successful movies. I think Encino Man was number 1, and then Son-in-Law.
Son-in-Law was great. You want to know why? Tiffany Amber Thiessen.
Who is like definitely in her prime.
Yeah.
Definitely in her prime.
Right.
We're talking Lindsay Lohan during Mean Girls in her prime.
Ooh.
Yeah. And not only that, but Son-in-Law was the birth of the Weasel.
Oh, the Weasel. And Biodome, like my favorite line from Biodome is "Free Mahi Mahi." It's him and Steve Ballmer. Free Mahi Mahi. I mean, I love Biodome. I think that's just. I think it's William Dafoe's in that movie.
Yeah. and Kylie Minogue, really, and like Kylie Minogue, Rose McGowan. Wow, there was some random people in that movie. But I feel like In the Army Now, though, that was especially because it was like we were still kind of riding the high of the Persian Gulf War. I mean, you had Andy Dick and David Alan Grier in that movie.
Oh man, dag.
Yeah, like it's just fantastic stuff.
And if you're looking for your Pauly Shore fix, and you've seen all these '90s movies, check out Pauly Shore's Dead. It's on Netflix. It's a mockumentary, or not even mockumentary. It's a movie Pauly Shore made. I think it's a fiction movie. I mean, obviously fiction, where he fakes his own death to get the notoriety, and then all the news outlets talk about what an amazing actor he was. And it's hilarious. It's great. But back to Goof Troop. Good times. Goofy's a great character. We put it at 25, bottom of the second tier. I'm feeling good about that.
Yeah, I can live with that.
Well, who wants a body massage?
Who wants
massage?
Who wants a body massage? Body massage machine. Because we got G.I. Joe coming up next as our next show to rank. And this G.I. Joe, I think it's Real American Hero is the title, because there were a lot of G.I. Joe cartoons in the late 80s, early 90s. And I actually might be wrong on that, but this was talk about G.I. Joe. Somebody.
Yeah, so I mean, this obviously, and we talk about marketing and the power of, what, and I think I touched on this in the part of the podcast that didn't get picked up yesterday, but so much of what we're talking about was basically created just to sell us stuff,
Yeah.
right? And I feel like G.I. Joe was a perfect example of just a franchise that was just like such an incredible marketing machine. And look, it still is an incredible marketing machine, right? I mean, I went and saw the last G.I. Joe movie.
Yeah, and the last one was good.
Yeah,
In this, G.I. Joe had some great voice actors, and I had Sergeant Slaughter as one of the voice actors. That was really the only really good voice actor, but it debuted in 1989, ran for 44 episodes. It ran on the Dick Entertainment, DIC Entertainment.
Oh, good old Dick.
I feel like Dick did like every cartoon in the 90s.
Who wants a body massage?
And yes, and it lived through the YouTube memes, one of the first YouTube memes, which was taking the more you know skits from the end of it and turning them into ridiculous jokes.
yeah.
About a down power line in the middle of nowhere.
And we talked about this last night. Down power line, has that ever been a threat to anybody's safety?
Yes.
Oh, it's awkward. I've never come in contact with a down power line. I've never had to like make a very quick decision about like, oh, do I pick up this downed power line? It's never been, I've never been offered a body massage. Like, I mean, like I know there's other, there was the other one where the kids were like with the inhalants or something. But the more you know really stood out for me.
Yeah, and it I feel like it was I think they had like very special episodes. It checked off a lot of boxes for shows and cartoons around that time.
Definitely checks out a lot of boxes.
So we ended up putting this at number 8. If memory serves me correct, it ended up staying pretty high on the board throughout. Again, still very very influential. Still has a lot of staying power.
Yeah, I mean, I think number 8 is a good fit. Definitely.
Excellent. Well, let's move on to one that really didn't have a lot of staying power. We talk about we talk about the significance of a cartoon. We often talk about the things that kind of came after it, right? With Animaniacs, it was Pinky and the Brain. But kind of the inverse to that are cartoons that kind of came from something bigger and never lived up to those expectations. And one of them is Aladdin.
Aladdin.
Oh, man.
There it is, Aladdin. Hello, Aladdin.
So, I think this was only on very briefly. How big of a deal? And I think I asked this with one of the other ones. I asked this with Gummy Bears and the theme song. If Aladdin would have brought the voices from the movie into the cartoon, how much further? And we put this at number 30. We put this at the very, very bottom. How much further down does this go, or how much further up does this go? If this has Robin Williams, if this has some of the original cast
Steve,
characters.
DJ's boyfriend from Full House.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he was still in it. It was really Robin Williams that was missing out of it. Like they even had one of the characters. I was looking last night, and one of the characters was even voiced by what's his face,
Gilbert Gottfried.
Seinfeld's best friend.
Oh, Wayne Knight.
Not his. Wayne Knight's his arch enemy.
Oh,
Right.
you mean Jason Alexander?
Yeah, Jason Alexander was in it.
Really?
Huh.
So I think that Robin Williams may have had pull, but I think this just made a better movie than a show.
Yeah, I mean, and they made multiple movies.
Well,
I don't remember the show at all. I remember the movie.
Wow, yeah, you're right. So I mean, you had Dan Castellaneta, who ended up voicing the genie, who is a prolific. I mean, between Homer Simpson and every. Is an incredibly famous voiceover guy. Well, I mean, you also had Gilbert Gottfried. You had Jason Alexander. You had B.B. Newirth. That's crazy. she's an actress that was very very popular in the 80s.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't think any of us were really that thrilled with Aladdin TV show. We liked the movie, but not, I didn't think the TV show did it for us.
I just like I kind of remember, like watching it, but I don't remember it really being a thing.
Yeah. So we put Aladdin at the bottom of the second tier, right below Street Sharks. And I mean, I think that's fair. I think Street Sharks kind of novelty value raises it up a little bit more. It was semi-original. Aladdin was just kind of milking that cow.
And again, I think Aladdin, I think Street Sharks had more of a marketing value.
Yeah. And I mean, how much better would Street Sharks have been if it was Street Sharks? Way better, right?
Oh, totally.
Probably not better at all.
Way stinkier.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't think it'd get any stinkier than it already was.
Yeah. That's jawsome, Jeremy.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to the next one. This is one that ended up getting bounced around the board quite a bit, and I think if there was one that I could say kind of ended up where it did, based off of pure nostalgia value and almost with no remembrance of the show itself.
100% nostalgia value.
It's this one. I couldn't tell you one plot line or anything, but David the Gnome.
David the Gnome.
It's just it's the feel good story. It's that guy who comes off the bench who's scrappy,
Birdman. Birdman.
Yeah, but likable, right? Like a Manu, like Manu Ginobili, and what was it like game 5 or 6 where he exploded?
Oh,
it was like,
game.
Yeah, it's like, oh man, like Manu Ginobili's back, and he looks like he has a yarmulke on his head because he bald
yarmulke.
Yeah, like that's great. Like that's what David the Gnome is. It's this cartoon that you kind of remember.
I think we all remembered Swift, the dog.
Yeah.
And I remember this as a show I would watch when I was stayed home sick from school.
And I remember the strong relationship that David had with his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He did love his wife, and that's good. That's the institution of marriage.
Yeah, and so forth.
I feel like I've heard that somewhere recently.
But so I really, again, I can't really think of anything else regarding the show. And
we did talk a lot about the Travelocity Gnome and how it relates to David the Gnome last night.
And I threw out the hypothesis that the Travelocity Gnome was just David the Gnome post-TV career.
I mean, that would be amazing if that was true.
Conspiracy theory.
Yeah, I mean, I also think it would be great, to do, if there was one character to do like a fake documentary on where is he now, or if you have to do like a where are they now documentary on cartoon characters in the 90s, I feel like David the Gnome would probably be a good one to do.
Oh, he would be a fantastic one to do. Because I feel like everybody remembers David the Gnome, but nobody could tell you anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And actually, I think that would be a really funny series. Would just be, just like a deadpan, where are these cartoon characters now? Because where is do Chip and Dale still talk? Right? Are they still friends?
I highly doubt it.
Yeah, I mean, did Rocco have a bit of a drinking problem?
It's way less modern.
Yeah.
Considering the shirts that he wore, I bet he did.
He was Australian, right?
Yeah. He was a dingo.
Australian from here. Jeremy, don't say dingo on YouTube, man.
Yeah, too soon.
We're trying to get a PG rating on this pod. Well, David the Gnome, we ranked it at 16, top of the second tier, and I think it's we called it the King of the North last night.
Yeah. The King of the North.
The King of the North, David the Gnome.
Hodor.
Well, let's move on to our next one. And this was another one that, kind of spun off of another series, another video game. This was Where on Earth is Carmen Sandiego? What do you guys remember about this show?
So
Not much.
yeah, and we talked about this. If you were ranking the franchise as a whole, as far as the franchise is significant, we're talking video games. And remember, we have talked about video games and all other things that have come after a cartoon has started. But, I mean, this cartoon was a byproduct of the video games and of the live-action show, right? So it doesn't get credit for spawning the other things. If you look at everything holistically, like, the franchise is amazing, right?
Mhm.
Like it was either this or Oregon Trail, which is probably the first video game I ever played, or the Number
You played
Munchers
Oregon
game,
Trail first.
or the Number Munchers game. Remember with the guy and you would have to eat the numbers. Did you guys
Mhm.
not? Yeah, like
It was a typing game, right? Like Mavis Beacon.
It was kind of like that, but with numbers.
Where do you put Carmen Sandiego and Mavis Beacon? Which one would you rank higher in
It
terms
was
of
it
in
was
terms
Carmen.
of computer game women?
Oh, definitely Carmen Sandiego. I mean, she was just playing hard to get,
Extremely hard to get.
without a doubt.
But yeah, I mean, this cartoon, I don't think any of us really remember a ton about the actual cartoon. And that's why I got a little bit of a lower ranking. It was these are all good shows. If these weren't good shows, I wouldn't have made the list in the first place.
No, without a doubt. But again, this is definitely a lower tier show.
Yeah. This is, I think we ranked it last night at 27, so towards the bottom of the lower tier. And, not a bad show, still on the board between Goof Troop and Street Sharks. And real quick, let's just recap kind of where the leaderboard looks right now. So starting at the top of Tier 1, we got Chippendale at number 1, followed by Animaniacs. Then DuckTales, Ghostbusters, G.I. Joe, Batman the Animated Series, Rocko's Modern Life, and Bobby's World, rounding out the first tier. Second tier, we have David the Gnome, Goof Troop, Where on Earth is Carmen Sandiego, Street Sharks, and Aladdin. And so far, we have nothing off the board.
Oh, man. I feel like some things are about to get bumped.
I mean, things are about to get a little crazy, I have a feeling, because our next show that we're going to talk about was a good one with a very good theme song, a Disney show about some bears. It was a spin-off of Jungle Book. We're going to talk about Tailspin.
What a great show.
Fantastic show.
You had the island, you had the airplanes, you had characters from the Jungle Book, you had Kit Cloud Kicker. How awesome a name is that? And he'd fly around on his little airboard. He'd flip this little disc out and he'd surf around on his little airboard.
And this was the show that had references to Casablanca, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, well, and it was kind of a spin-off of the Jungle Book, right? I mean, because you had Baloo, you had Shere Khan, the tiger, right?
Was he a bad guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So and Kit Cloud Kicker was kind of like the new Mowgli. He was like the kid that kind of came in. I don't know. It was a cool. It just had a cool feel to it. This is a show I remember wanting to go home and watch.
And I think we looked at it and we were surprised that it only had one season.
Yeah. I was
Because we all
really
remembered a
surprised about that.
cliffhanger. All three of us remembered some giant cliffhanger in that show.
Yeah, and I feel like they basically just ran it into one giant season.
So I'm going to play a little bit of the theme song. think that if you went to the bar and played this song, you would just have everybody going crazy?
I feel like if you weren't with if you were a guy and you put that song on, and if you weren't with a woman, that's like instant. That's like the musical version of Axe body spray. They flocking towards you. You have to beat them off with a stick.
I mean,
that's
just a great show, great theme song,
Yeah.
all around.
So so we ended up having to do some shuffling after this.
We did.
Because we moved this up to 6, we moved Gummy Bears down to 7. Just because I think we all agreed that the Tailspin overall, from its enjoyability then, its enjoyability now, its marketing capacity, everything about it, slightly better than Gummy Bears. And it had a great theme song too.
Yep.
Had a fantastic theme song.
And I mean, just still a great show.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Speaking of which, I'm gonna have to watch some Tailspin this next week.
Yeah, I mean, I think you should definitely watch Tailspin. Find out what this big cliffhanger was and how they settled it. I guess when you think back at cartoons, like we talk about these cliffhangers, they didn't really end seasons with cliffhangers. They more ended kind of 2-part episodes of cliffhangers and then wrapped it up before the season ended. Because they didn't want unhappy kids.
Yeah, well, and like I feel like there were a lot of like 3 or 4-part episodes, right? Like the Phoenix Saga is such a perfect example. Although I feel like the Phoenix Saga was much longer.
Yeah, the Phoenix Saga was like half a season.
Yeah.
And we will get into X-Men later on in this podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we got DuckTales at number 5, Tailspin at number 6, Gummy Bears at number 7, and G.I. Joe at number 8. So our first tier is starting to fill up a little bit, which is great. That's what we want. That's what we want.
Exactly.
Well, any last words on Tailspin before we move on? I just think a good show. If you haven't watched it in a while, watch it. If you're at the bar, you want to meet some ladies, try playing that. Try playing that.
Put it on. Put it on.
Do some cloud surfing.
Well, I was saying, let's go into one that I think, is almost the opposite of it, and that's Addams Family. And I say almost the opposite because, Tailspin also came from a movie. Tailspin came from the Jungle Book. It was derived from a larger movie. So was Addams Family, but Addams Family didn't live up to anything that the movie was. And
because the movie was a TV show first, and then it was a movie, and then it was a TV show again, and it wasn't very funny.
No, not in the least. Not in the least. Did you like the Raul Julia like Christina Ricci live action movie?
Yeah, it's fine. I liked Addams Family Values better. I remember growing up. Also, Christopher Lloyd was Cousin Id. Christopher Lloyd, you have Doc Brown.
That was funny.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean, you had Christopher Lloyd, you had Angelica Houston. You had a great cast. Fantastic cast, by the way.
I feel like if Addams Family was on TV right now, I'd probably change the channel, watch something else.
Like the movie or the show?
The movie.
Yeah, it wouldn't do it for me.
Yeah, it just, I don't know.
It was fine when I was a little kid.
It was nostalgia. It was nostalgia for some of the older folks.
Yeah. So Addams Family, none of us really remember the show very well, the cartoon show.
Yeah, and it definitely suffered because of that, and we ended up putting it down at 31.
Yeah. So Addams Family was actually our first off-the-board show.
Never even had a chance.
Didn't even have a chance in the tiers. I just think that's what happens when you put out an inferior product.
Yeah.
All right, shall we continue? Back to the Disney well. Back to the Ducks. Darkwing Duck.
Oh man.
Everybody loves Darkwing Duck.
Another good theme song.
Yeah.
Good theme song. Good characters. Great show.
And fantastic video game too. Like I think probably the best cartoon related Game Boy game there was.
Yeah, it was a pretty good one.
But
also,
I was gonna say, but we ended up putting this at number 12 You know what? What about Darkwing Duck was less than some of the other Disney cartoons? What about it made it a lower pick than Gummy Bears or DuckTales or Tailspin?
Well, see, I think one of the things was, and I did some research around this, it actually is a spin-off of DuckTales.
That's what I thought.
But I don't know. From what I remember last night, the reason we put it down was just we all agreed that it was a good cartoon, but there were members amongst us that just had not been huge Darkwing Duck fans and had no recollection of like a bunch of toys for Darkwing Duck.
I don't remember any Darkwing Duck toys, really.
Yeah, it was a great show that was on there, but I think it was the marketability it came down to. It just wasn't.
I never
show.
remember rushing home to watch Darkwing Duck.
Yeah.
And I'll play a little bit of the theme as we're. I mean, this is like total like '90s rap rock, right? Like,
Oh yeah,
it was a good theme. And if you are interested in TV show themes, there are, and you also like drinking, there's a very good TV show themes power hour, I think on YouTube, where each minute it plays a different 90s TV show theme song, 80s and 90s TV show theme song. It's definitely a lot of fun if you're looking to do a power hour.
Yeah.
Just Google it. You'll find it on YouTube or College Humor or something. And that's a fun one. And the other thing that I would just like to point out, as we have been searching for these themes on YouTube, if you YouTube any of these TV shows, well, not any of them, but a lot of them, you can find full episodes of these shows on YouTube.
Yeah.
So if you really want to watch some Tailspin, or want to watch an episode of Rocko's Modern Life, or any of the other shows we talk about tonight, just Google it. You'll find episodes on YouTube. Maybe not high quality, but you get the gist of it.
And a lot of these are on Netflix as well, and probably on Hulu. So again, a lot of what we're talking about is definitely accessible.
Yeah, and I just we're gonna move on to kind of our last one that will transition between last night's podcast and tonight's podcast.
Yep.
Any last words on Darkwing Duck?
We put it at 12. I think that this was one of those that we all know is a top tier. It's just it's kind of hard to figure out where we're in that top tier to put it. But I think I think we're all pretty happy with where it is.
Yeah. So let's just recap the tiers real quick before we move on to our next one. So tier 1, we have Chippendale Rescue Rangers, Animaniacs, followed by DuckTales, Tailspin, G.I. Joe, or Gummy Bears, and G.I. Joe. Coming in at number 10, we have Batman the Animated Series, then Darkwing Duck at 12, Rocko's Modern Life, and Bobby's World. And tier 2, which hasn't filled up too much yet, David the Gnome, Goof Troop, Where on Earth is Carmen Sandiego, Street Sharks, Aladdin, and off the board, not even making a tier, is Addams Family. So, yeah. And I think the list is shaping up nicely. I think we're going to have some good do battles towards the end. And this next one is kind of our bridge to our podcast from last night. If you guys were listening last night, we had a little bit of technical difficulties. We lost the first hour. We've now redone that first hour. And we're shortly going to be transferring you to our podcast from yesterday. And what a better time to go back in time than to talk about the cartoon version of Back to the Future. So let's just get into it real quickly. What do you guys remember about Back to the Future?
I remember the dog.
Einstein.
I remember the train. Right, if I remember, no, was the train not in?
No, yeah, I'm nodding. It was the
okay.
time machine train that was created at the end of Back to the Future Part 3.
It was very Doc heavy. I remember being a very Doc heavy show.
Well, it was all about the Browns. It was about Doc and Clara and their kids, Jules and Vern. There's a little bit of Marty in there, and they traveled all over time. to dinosaurs and to other times in the past and in the future, and had adventures and continued Back to the Future, which is my favorite movie. I think this is a great show. I'm very happy with this one. I'm glad it's on the list, and I want to see it do well.
Well, we ended up putting this. We ended up putting this at 13. I mean, I think this ended up staying as a top tier cartoon. I think this was one of the few cartoons that came from a really solid movie and did not disappoint.
No,
right?
It did not. It was a great show. It had good toys. Had great marketing. I remember McDonald's Happy Meals had toys for it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it was, and frankly, it was a cartoon that wasn't like exceedingly dark, right? Like a lot of these other ones, like Batman, we talked a little bit about the Spider-Man cartoon and about GI, and quite a bit about X-Men. A lot of those had very dark elements to it. This is just a fun cartoon.
Yeah,
and it did it very well.
It did, and when we put Back to the Future at 13, we moved Rocko's Modern Life down to 14, and Bobby's World to 15, rounding out the top tier. And so I think anything you guys want to say about Back to the Future before we kind of switch over?
Nope.
No, I think we're we're pretty solid.
Well, we're going to take this over to a part 2, and when it joins into part 2, it's going to be in the middle of the Back to the Future discussion. So you might hear some repeating of what we just talked about, but then you will be fresh on to the rest of the podcast, where we will round out the top tier and the second tier and come up with our top 35 cartoons of our childhood from 1989 to 1994. So enjoy the rest of the podcast.
Yeah. YOLO.
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 Clara, because she screwed everything up in Back to the Future.
But this also may have the best voice cast of any show, because you had Dan Castanella playing Doc Brown, you had Mary Steenburgen play Clara Brown,
married to Sam Malone, by the way. She's married to Ted Danson.
Yeah, and then Bill Nye would occasionally come in and do stuff as Dr. Brown's lab assistant.
Bill Nye the Science Guy?
No, what other Bill Nye is there?
Yeah, come on.
I didn't know if he was mispronouncing Bill Nighy.
Yeah, it's Bill Nighy, who's
not the real big Bill Nighy.
Yeah. Okay, so where does this go? Where are we putting this?
I think this is tier 1.
I think it's right below Bobby's World.
I think it's above Rocko's Modern Life and Bobby's World.
This is like your Bobby. like this for you is like you were drawing a line across that line.
I mean, what does Rocko's Modern Life bring to the table? Back to the Future had McDonald's toys. I had them. I bought Happy Meals.
Are you allowed to say that for work? Are you allowed to admit to that?
Yeah.
I only bought the toys.
I would be willing to drop Rocko's Modern Life and Bobby's World down 1, and then slot Back to the Future in at 13.
You're a gentleman and a scholar.
Are you okay with that, Jer?
That works for me.
So our tier 1 is starting to fill up now. Let me just screen share this real quick, so those of you watching on YouTube can see where our tier 1 is. Only a couple empty spots remain.
Yeah.
And Disney really taking, just like Pixar will in the future.
Just rocking.
Disney doing it. So we'll see how it goes. We got some more left to go through. There's some good ones left in here too.
Yeah.
Here's one. Ren and Stimpy.
So
dirty adult humor on Nickelodeon.
So I'm gonna throw this out there because I don't know how it was for the two of you. I remember, I think there was maybe like a season of The Simpsons I was not allowed to watch. I think just because my parents just knew that other parents weren't letting their kids watch. At least my mom like had a sense like other parents were just saying no to The Simpsons. But like some of my favorite moments as a kid were watching Ren and Stimpy with my father. Like also watching Married with Children with my father, which probably says a lot about my dad, but like I watched the show all the time with my parents, and I loved it. It was a brilliant freaking show. It was absolutely brilliant. I mean, they had amazing like guest voiceovers that would come on. Like I feel like this is like a good hipster marketing. Like I don't know, like as our senior hipster correspondent, Jeremy. Like do hipsters talk about this anymore? Like is this something that they still?
You know, I think that that the hipsters are a little more into the SpongeBob action still. But you know, I don't know. Ren and Stimpy is always a classic, and I think it needs to be up there because I think it did start that whole thing of adult cartoons that were pitched to kids.
Yeah.
I think it's overrated. I never liked it. It was gross. Like I like gross humor, but it was just like gross.
I mean, it was pretty nasty.
I mean, I'll put it on here, you know, because of the cultural significance and that most of my friends liked it. I'm
going to also say this. There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There were like 12 Ren and Stimpy video games. Okay?
Whoa.
Like there were comic books. There was supposed to be a movie, but it fell through. Like the deal between Nickelodeon and Fox fell through. Like I feel like there was also again some marketability. Hell, I mean, I don't know. I think that this belongs at the bottom of tier 1, and I know we're kind of stuffing a lot in the bottom of tier 1, but like you know, like, I would be willing to bump Bobby's World to the top of tier 2.
Yep.
And put this at 15.
That's actually lower than I would have put it, and I didn't like this show. Anthony, you remember after we did the sandwich podcast when all your friends came over and they could not believe that like 2 or 3 sandwiches we rated as low as we did?
Yeah.
That's exactly what will happen with Ren and Stimpy after this.
I'm gonna say Ren and Stimpy needs to go above Rocco's Modern Life. I think move Rocco down to 15, Bobby's World down to 16, and put Ren and Stimpy at 14.
I agree with that.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that.
I would even, as much as I love Back to the Future, I would even say we could put back, you know, put it above Darkwing Duck, but I'm fine with moving Bobby's World down. Moves David the Gnome down.
I'm okay with that. I mean, it makes me sad, but I mean, there's part of me that thinks it should be at 11, but I mean, look, you know, the first tier is going to get. I mean, we still have some really heavy hitters.
We do have some heavy hitters, and just a heads up, Jeremy said his battery is soon to die, so we may be doing a little reconfiguring. If
well, half an hour. I got about half an hour.
Yeah, just saying, we might have to do some reconfig.
Yeah.
we don't want to rush. Next
Yeah.
one. You ready for some lasagna? Garfield and Friends.
Oh man.
Who is Friends besides Odie?
And John.
Normal?
No, but Normal wasn't a friend. He was only trying to get her the hell out of there, right?
Yeah.
Now, I mean, this is the question that I have: is are you including the cartoon special as part of this franchise?
What's the cartoon special?
I mean the Christmas one.
Oh, I don't know. I don't celebrate Christmas.
Yeah, but you watch TV, right? like I
I
don't
do
really
celebrate TV.
Yeah, like let's be honest, like Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever, TV is there. It'll always be there. So, I mean, I enjoyed the Garfield Christmas special. I thought it was funny. I don't know. It was okay.
I mean, I think this is tier 2.
Yeah.
It was on for 7 seasons.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of a historical cartoon. They made a Bill Murray movie out of it. I think Jennifer Love Hewitt was in there, and if you could give points for Jennifer Love Hewitt, I would. But we're not talking about the movie. We're talking about the cartoon.
Just because something was on for 7 years doesn't make it good. It just means that they were able to sell it for 7 years.
Boom.
Damn.
All right, I'm going to put this below David the Gnome.
Yeah, do it.
Next one. All right, well, I'm just going to scroll back to tier 1 to the very top. This will lead to some discussion. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Number 1.
Number 1. This is the Reuben. I mean, this is the Reuben of cartoon shows.
I can't.
Hold on, wait. Does anybody remember when the Ninja Turtles were on Oprah? The Ninja Turtles were on bleeping Oprah. Does anybody else remember that?
Like the animated Ninja Turtles were on Oprah?
No, like the actual the guys from the movie in their suits were on Oprah. Like,
hey, we're not talking about the movie here though. We're talking about the animated cartoon.
Yeah, but the animated cartoon spawned the movies though.
Yeah, and you know this was all we were all just marketers' puppets because they released these toys and they're like, we're gonna make a cartoon, and then they sold.
Oh, okay. So
I mean, I think you're right. This is number 1. I think this is above Chippendale.
It's totally number 1.
Yeah. So let's just put it on. Let's put it on as number 1, and then let's have the real discussion surrounding the show, which was the best Ninja Turtle,
and how awesome the theme song is. That won't be part of the discussion, but we had to throw that in there.
I mean, this is another one we could do a full podcast on, right?
Yeah. I mean, we can acknowledge this. We can talk about the various movies. We can talk about we can power rank side characters. The simple question is, which was the best Ninja Turtle?
Donatello.
Donatello.
He taught me to be good at school.
Yeah.
The bow was the best weapon in the game. Donatello
the Natty Bow.
Now, hold on. And this question is purely directed at Zach. But did you also feel like Donatello was like the Jewish Ninja Turtle?
No, actually. I can see that, but no, I didn't think of that.
Yeah, I don't know why to me, he always could have identified in my mind as the Jewish Ninja Turtle. So that's
are all three of us in agreement that Donatello was the best Ninja Turtle?
Yeah.
Wow.
Does it surprise anybody here if I told you my brother's favorite Ninja Turtle was Michelangelo?
Not at all.
Yeah. Well, tell us who your favorite Ninja Turtle is. Tweet at us at Natty Brohs and use the hashtag TMNT. We want to know who your favorite Ninja Turtle was. Yeah. And expect a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle podcast at some point in the future because there's way too much to talk about. What was the best Ninja Turtle toy that you had?
My Donatello action figure. It was the very first Ninja Turtle toy I got. I'm pretty sure I still have it in a box at my parents' house.
I had the van.
Ooh.
I had the van. I always wanted the plane that shot pizzas. My friend had it.
I was going to say, I wanted the blimp. Like, I asked for the blimp one year for Hanukkah or Christmas or whatever non-denominational present-giving holiday that we really celebrated. And I got the van, and at first I was really disappointed because I wanted to fly the blimp around the house. But I was happy with the van.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on because we could go for hours on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and we have another good one to discuss. One that, as I've gotten older, is a little overrated, but definitely has a lot of Jewish influence. The Rugrats.
Ah, Rugrats.
This was a Nickelodeon cartoon. The young kids, they're very young kids. Angelica,
Jews.
Charlie.
Jews.
They did a Passover special, which I watched millions of times.
Yeah.
I'm saying it needs to go in the top 10. Maybe even, I would even say this needs to go number 4.
I would put it at 9.
I was going to say 9.
9. I'd put it at 9. again, I think the theme song was underrated. Like the theme sequence was underrated. You know, they were able to kind of spin it off and and market it. But I think when you compare it to some of these other ones, like G.I. Joe and Gummy Bears and some of those,
I think it's higher than G.I. Joe, to tell you the truth.
See, I think it's higher than Gummy Bears. But
I think it is higher than Gummy Bears.
I mean, I would be willing to swap it with Gummy Bears to put Rugrats at 7 and Gummy Bears at 9.
Well, I pushed down Gummy Bears and G.I. Joe, so we have Rugrats at 7, Gummy Bears at 8, G.I. Joe at 9. Batman at 10.
I can deal with that.
Yeah, I think Rugrats is good. I feel like that's another one that if you watch now, you would get a lot of the jokes. And they were named the Pickles. And who doesn't like pickles?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're staying on the baby theme. This is one that Jeremy had a late edition. You probably can't read this, but it says Muppet Babies.
Yes.
Muppet Babies was better than the original Muppets.
Totally.
When you were a kid, right?
Totally. It was the cartoon that seemed like it should be stupid and like you'd expect to see on like Nick Jr. or something, but it wasn't.
I think it was on Nick Jr.
I think it was.
I didn't know. I thought it started on regular. It wasn't just a Nick Jr. like Sprout cartoon.
I mean, it was on for a long time. It was on for 8 seasons. It started off at CBS. Huh.
I mean, I'll give this 11. I'll give it one of the open spots in the tier 1 right now. Above Darkwing Duck, below Batman.
Yeah, I mean, I really... I mean, this is the thing. I feel like a lot of these other cartoons were spokes in the wheel, right? Like, or were like the hub of the wheel, and like everything else kind of emanated from that. I feel like this was just kind of a spoke in like the Muppets like mega franchise.
Mm.
So I think to some extent it wasn't as influential. I don't know. I mean, I don't even know if I would put it as high as where it is, but
I mean, I could put it below Ren and Stimpy.
I'd say put it below Ren and Stimpy, but keep it in the top tier because it still was a big cartoon. Like, you go up to anybody from our generation and say, did you watch Muppet Babies as a kid? And they're I guarantee you at least 80% of them are going to say, oh yeah, man, and they'll be able to sing the theme song to you.
Yeah, but beyond that, what do they got to remember? I don't remember anything else about that.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember they were babies of Muppets.
Yeah.
Gonzo.
I mean...
Still better than Rocko's Modern Life, though.
Yeah, without a doubt. But I look at... You look at, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, right, as, the gold standard. I mean, I remember, you remember plot lines, right? I mean, you remember, specific characters. You remember specific episodes. I don't remember that with Muppet Babies.
Also, what was the conflict in Muppet... I don't know if there was any conflict in Muppet Babies.
They went on adventures.
It was...
Imagination adventures.
Yeah, didn't they do one in space? There was space
That was the actual movie.
I don't know.
I don't know. But we're going to stay on the small version of your favorite characters. Much better than Muppet Babies, I think. Tiny Toons.
Oh, yes.
I feel like it's right around Muppet Babies, but I think it's better than Muppet Babies.
Have you ever seen the version, or it was the episode that they aired, and then apparently they took off air where they... No, they aired it, and then they never replayed it, but... It's like Bugs and Daffy and Porky get drunk and crash a car and die. And it's an anti-drinking cartoon.
Tiny Toons?
Tiny Toons. Look it up on YouTube. It's on YouTube. I found it.
That's depressing as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just for that, I think we should take it off the board. I mean, I don't...
And then they were trying to teach some kids a lesson about not drinking and driving.
I mean, what kids are driving... Also, what kids are drinking? That's a rap lyric, probably.
Kids are driving, kids are drinking.
I mean, yeah, I am kind of indifferent on this. Like, it's a good show. I think it's better than Muppet Babies, but it's like the same exact thing as Muppet Babies. Do we know what came out first? Because I'm ranking that one higher.
I mean, this is the thing. Probably Muppet Babies. In fact, I would, with all assurances, say Muppet Babies. I think you drop Rocko's Modern Life. I mean, you're going to start seeing a lot of this at the very bottom of tier 1, start getting pushed down.
Yeah.
I would say drop Rocko's Modern Life and put this right below Muppet Babies.
I can do that.
I mean, to me,
shouldn't have aired that DUI episode.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's a somewhat generic. It didn't have the flash or the flair or the excitement of Animaniacs.
All I can remember about Tiny Toons is that there was an episode where they were in a classroom. That's all I remember.
I think they were in a classroom every single episode.
Maybe that's why I remember that. All right, let's move along.
Move along.
Iron Man, the animated series. I didn't even remember this one, but it was one of the Fox morning cartoons.
Yeah.
This is our first Marvel cartoon that we're getting into. I was a huge fan of Marvel growing up. I had all the Marvel cards and loved the comics and video games.
Just waiting for another Marvel cartoon to come.
Oh, it's coming.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That's our. I mean, that's like our breakfast sandwich.
Yeah. I think this is below Garfield and Friends. I have nothing to say about Iron Man.
Yeah, I'm willing to put it there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm willing to put at 20. I'm willing to put it at 20.
Yeah.
It's a solid tier 2. I don't really. I remember it being on. I remember Tony Stark having like a weird mustache. But I really don't remember anything else about it.
I wouldn't remember anything about Iron Man if they didn't make the movies.
Probably.
That's a good point.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to something that's worth our talking about. Another Nickelodeon cartoon. I think the best Nickelodeon cartoon. Doug.
Yes.
Doug Funny.
All right, so now we're getting into some solid ground here. I think that and this is really tough.
We have one empty spot in Tier 1, number 4 right now.
I think that needs to go there for now.
Yeah. I think I am totally comfortable with putting Doug as in a placeholder.
Yeah, and Doug needs to end up in the top 10.
Doug is a great show.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many good references to the Beatles, Patty Mayonnaise, Skeeter.
Quailman. I have a friend named Doug that we never call him Doug. All we do is call him Quailman.
That is an awesome nickname for
Killer
somebody named
Tofu.
Ooh, Killer Tofu.
What do you guys think about swapping Animaniacs and Doug?
I'd be okay with that. I love Animaniacs, but swap it with Doug.
Yeah.
Is Doug better than Chip and Dale?
Yes, I think it was.
I've definitely watched more Doug than I have Chip and Dale. It's
I've
tough.
watched more Chip and Dale than I watched Doug, though.
So
again, it comes back to the not having cable and having to go over to my friend's house to watch shows like Doug and Hey Arnold and all those things.
What are you more likely to watch
right now?
Yeah,
Doug. And I also felt like Doug was kind of like the cartoon version of Adventures of Pete and Pete.
Yeah.
Which, if that was a cartoon, would be a top 3 because it not only had I think the best theme song of any show of our childhood.
You had the dancing tattoo.
I mean, it was an amazing show. I feel like Doug had some similarities to that.
Okay.
Yeah, I can remember the Doug theme song very well. Doug. Yeah, I remember when Doug's sister couldn't parallel park. Yeah, this is a solid number 2. I'm okay with that.
Great. Awesome. All
Well, let's
right.
take a look at our top 10 real quick, just to recap. We got Ninja Turtles #1, then Doug, Chippendale, Animaniacs, DuckTales, Tailspin, Rugrats, Gummy Bears, G.I. Joe, and Batman the Animated Series.
It's a solid top 10 so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can fucks with that.
So here's one I know nothing about, so I have no opinion of this, which should, I think, factor into it, but let me turn off the screen share. Hang on. There we go. This is one Jeremy is excited about, Reboot.
Oh my gosh.
So this is one that I actually put on the list, and I'm going to explain why. And Jeremy, if you can back me up on this.
I totally will.
I think marketing-wise, I don't really think that it did much. I think it was only on for a couple seasons. I only remember a couple episodes, but I feel like the show was so far ahead of its time, right? Like, it was the first fully computer-animated show. Like, I would want to watch this show just to laugh at how outdated the technology was, because, like, I think there was like a show where they were like being shot at like floppy disks.
Yep.
It was just crazy.
And there'd always be the game would like descend onto their little town, and they had to like fight the bad guys while playing the game and acting as like characters in the game and like saving the user.
Yeah, I mean, again, I just it was on for 4 seasons. They lived in a computer system like called the mainframe. Like, it was so wonderfully 1990s technology. But again, like it just wasn't anything that really, I don't know, took off. But I think you could look back on this as a consequential cartoon, which is why I would say it belongs. I would put this above. I would put Iron Man down to 21 and put this into 20.
I think that's totally fair.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah, I say it's a solid mid to upper tier 2, because I mean, all in all, it was a crappy cartoon, but there was nothing like it when it came out, and it kind of created the whole CGI cartoon world that we have today. So,
Reboot. All right, well, Reboot we put at number 20, putting it in tier 2. Let's keep moving along. This is a good one I had a lot of toys for. Ghostbusters, the animated series. I mean, this was one that probably, looking back, is not very good, but was a pretty big part of my childhood.
See, I think that Ghostbusters and Police Academy, the animated series, fall into a very unique category where the toys that they spun off were actually bigger than the cartoon. Because I remember all of those toys, but I cannot say a single episode of Ghostbusters that I watched. But I had all of the cartoon toys.
Did you have the firehouse that you could pour the goo down?
No, I was never cool enough to get any of the stages, just the action figures.
I had that.
I think I also had that.
But I lost all the parts to
Well,
it.
you guys were just awesome.
You always do. I mean, that's kind of the point. I think, again, this to me, I think you're right, Jeremy. Like, I think this is a somewhat generic cartoon. Marketability-wise, it's definitely a top tier. But I think, like, entertainment-wise,
They also lost all the voice actors from the TV, or from the movie.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this is below David the Gnome, above Garfield and Friends.
Yeah. I'm fine with that. I'm totally cool with that.
All right. Yeah, I think that I mean, it was a good show, but the movie's better, the toys are better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So earlier in the podcast, I talked about, shows were going to get points based on novelty value and how, looking back on it, you're like, that was awesome, even if you didn't watch it that much when you were a kid.
Yeah.
This is the prime example of that. This is Pro Stars, which I had to Google the name of what this show was. Pro Stars was the show starring Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky, and Bo Jackson.
I never knew that was a thing.
Yeah, it's about helping kids.
And they were like, this was, I mean,
I'm going to bow out if you guys want to place this on, but in my mind, the fact that none of us really knew, Zach, you and I didn't even know this was a show.
I knew it was a show. I just had to Google what the name of it was.
We all had to Google what the name of it was. Like that, it did not click to it with us at the time. So I automatically say this goes off the board.
Oh,
Well,
no.
No, so I mean that's the thing.
Name me one episode. Can you tell me about one episode of it?
Yeah, Bo Jackson hits a home run, probably.
Probably. Can you tell me about the theme song?
Yeah, it was probably awesome, and Michael Jordan was the man.
We all okay. You guys vote. I am recusing myself of this vote.
This should get points because they could not make this show today. If they made this show today, who would be in it? Tim Tebow, Aaron Hernandez, and LeBron? Like,
but it's God. It was still not obviously a great show.
no, fantastic show.
But it was because they had Marv Albert did voiceover. They had Marvelous Mike Fratello did voiceover, right? Like, I mean, it was all of your favorite announcers from the early '90s. It was
Who would they
fantastic.
use if they made this show today? If they took a football or baseball player, because Bo Jackson
Definitely not Aaron Hernandez.
No, not Aaron Hernandez.
So all right. So they would use LeBron, Peyton Manning, and
I think they wouldn't use a hockey player. I don't think they'd use a baseball player, a football player, and a basketball player.
like Matt Kemp. Like
No.
I don't even know which baseball player you like. Bryce Harper? Would you use Bryce Harper? You'd use Bryce Harper.
Oh,
You'd use Bryce Harper.
Maybe Bryce Harper. I don't know if he's big
Yeah.
enough outside the DC area.
God, that's a clown statement.
No.
bro. Like,
They wouldn't use Bryce Harper because people are way more focused on demographic meeting right there, and you can't have two white guys. They'd have to have a Latino in there. So it would be either Big Papi or maybe I don't know who would it be.
Giancarlo Stanton. One of the
Maybe.
episodes can be all about how he just screws over my fantasy team. It'd be great. I don't think they'd use LeBron either. I think they'd use Kevin Durant. Way more of a family-friendly
And
athlete.
he has a movie.
Yeah, Thunderstruck or Thunder Up or something. All right, so where are we putting this? This is tier 2, I guess.
yeah,
Yeah.
at the very bottom of tier 2.
The bottom of tier 2? So are we
Goodness.
bumping Aladdin to off the board?
No, God. You got
Yeah. No. I would put it at 28. I would put it at 28.
All right.
I'd put it right there. I mean,
Tweet at us if you're listening and who you think they would have as the stars
Yeah.
and pro stars, because we use hashtag pro stars. The nice thing about all these old TV shows is that you can use the hashtag and no problem.
Yeah.
All right, we're starting to run low on names actually.
No.
So we're starting to fill up. Next one, we're going back to another comedy movie they turned into a cartoon.
Ace Ventura?
No, Ace Ventura was too late in the game. Beetlejuice.
Oh.
I was not a fan. I'm not a Tim Burton fan, and I didn't like the cartoon. So, I mean, this really can't be low enough for me.
I mean, I'm fine putting this off the board right with Adam's Family. Like, it was fine. I had toys from it, but I don't think it was anything special.
Yeah, I agree.
All right.
Beetlejuice.
Done and done. Suck it.
Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice.
This is one I didn't want to include because it doesn't fit. But I think you
Okay.
have to include it. Beavis and Butthead.
So, and I think very, very much like Simpsons or the hamburger, I think Beavis and Butthead is like the hot dog.
Yeah.
Like I just think that this show was so I don't know, like it's its own category. I don't think you can really categorize it with Iron Man or Goof Troop or Pro Stars. Like
Yeah.
it's just
I didn't-
it's so different.
If we're talking childhood cartoons,
That's a good. Yeah.
I didn't
Like-
watch Beavis and Butthead as a kid.
That's a good point. Is like there's a lot of us, except for Anthony and his dad, apparently, that we wouldn't have been watching Beavis and Butthead, at age 7, age 8. Like that wasn't until 12 or 13 that you started watching Beavis and Butthead cartoons.
It wasn't like I don't remember really becoming aware of it until I was in middle school, and I think by that time it was really too late.
Yeah.
And
I feel like I would like Beavis. Well, actually, I don't think I would like Beavis and Butthead if I watched it now. I don't know when I would have liked Beavis and Butthead, but it wasn't when I was a kid. So I don't think we should. I think it needs to not be off the board. I think it should be
non-considered.
top of tier 2, maybe.
Now, I don't think. Look, we did not have a first part of the podcast where we discussed each one and decide whether or not they belong. I just think that it's not even on any of the 3 tiers.
Yeah.
I'm fine. I'm fine discussing it. I just don't think that it belongs in this discussion.
So it gets an NA.
Yeah, goes the way of The Simpsons.
Okay. I'm okay with that. Also,
because
Beavis and Butthead movie was fantastic.
Yeah. And look, like, it also spawned
King of the Hill.
King of the Hill, which now, like, I used to watch that show with my parents. Like,
Yeah.
That was a great show.
That was a great show.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to a childhood cartoon. Beavis and Butthead does not make the cut, as it just does not fall in the category. Coming in 1994, right at the tail end of our rankings, Spider-Man.
Oh, man.
So I actually think that Spider-Man was better than Batman the Animated Series. I remember very distinct episodes. When Venom, like the whole Venom miniseries was huge. The one where he actually turned into a spider was good.
Remember the Lizard Man was a big character in this?
Yeah.
It was a good. It was. I mean, we have not gotten to the prime Marvel comic TV show.
Don't even talk about it yet. Just don't even talk about it yet. But
Spider-Man's good. I'd put Spider-Man tier 1.
I would actually put Spider-Man above Batman. I would move everything else down.
Jeremy, what do you think about that?
See, I don't know. I was always more of a Batman fan, so it's kind of hard for me to make a judge on because I would keep Batman. I'm okay with the shuffling, but I would still keep Batman above Spider-Man because Spider-Man had its shows and its episodes, but Batman had more shows spin off of it. Like they kept the animated series going. Like Spider-Man just kind of and it died.
No. I mean, look, Dave. I mean, I don't know how you could say that because MTV did an animated series of Spider-Man, in the early odds, and then I mean you've had 4 full action movies come out.
Right, but you've also had what with 3 of the most critically acclaimed movies. If we're going to go on movies, Batman trumps it.
I mean, we're not talking about movies here, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. But what I'm saying is that it's not like the initial Spider-Man cartoon didn't spawn anything.
Yeah, I mean, I'll agree to it, but I'll agree in protest because I'm just a bigger Batman fan than I am Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Batman is probably the higher quality series, but I also when I think about Spider-Man, I think about the cartoon even more than I think about the movies.
And the I just think the villains were even better. Like Kingpin, Green Goblin, Doctor Octopus, they had some fantastic villains in that Spider-Man
Good toys
cartoon.
came out of that.
Yeah.
I remember it had a good theme song. I don't remember it, but I know it
Wasn't
had a good
Kingpin really huge in it?
Yeah.
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 I mean, I'd even put it above G.I. Joe at 9.
I'd be willing to do that.
I just remembered the theme song, and it was a good.
I'll say this: I would be willing to swap GI Joe and Batman.
I was just gonna say that.
But Batman at 10, GI Joe at 11.
All right,
is that satisfactory? Whoa!
It's coming back. Sorry.
Oh my god. Oh my
Oh
god.
my god.
Yeah, I actually think JoJo should be below Darkwing Duck while we're at it.
Better watch out, you bad boy.
No, you can't.
Why?
No,
I think Darkwing Duck
I
was
don't.
better.
Yeah,
Alright.
but I think G.I. Joe had more cultural significance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Alright. Alright, well, we're getting to the tail end of these, guys. We're
duck
working our
tail
way
end?
through.
The tail spin end.
I think this is
Oh.
going to be a very short conversation on this one. Good job, good effort, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Ugh, off the board.
Off the bloody board.
All right.
There's
well,
our UPN cartoon.
Yeah. Is Sonic the Hedgehog below Beetlejuice?
Yeah.
Alright,
Like this is the thing. It was only done to sell more video games.
Yeah.
Which was that was a fantastic video game.
It was amazing. But like it was you were just watching an ad. You're watching a 22-minute ad. Thanks but no thanks.
Good job, good effort.
Yeah.
So when I originally made the list, because I had forgotten about this show until I started the list, I called this one "Fucking Gargoyles."
Yeah. I noticed that.
Now it's just called Gargoyles. This was like a late Disney Channel cartoon about gargoyles that attacked things.
So
So-
I actually loved this show.
I actually loved it too. I thought it was amazing.
Zach does not like it.
No, I said fucking gargoyles in a good way.
Oh, okay. Well, then are we going to be able to bump this up into top tier? Because I think it somehow deserves to get pushed into the top tier. But what do we want to get rid of?
I mean, it's better than Muppet Babies.
Yeah.
It's better than Muppet Babies.
So we'll start.
I would
Better
even
than Ren
be
and
open for
Stimpy?
putting this above Batman.
Whoa. Wow.
Yeah.
Like
Went
it.
there.
Jeez.
I mean, come on. The intro where the guy's like talking and he has that whole like "We live again." It was great. It was a great intro.
Yeah, it was a great intro.
They used
It
to
was a
they like
dark
swap
TV
back
show.
and forth in time, you know. They'd go back to like the medieval ages and be fighting wizards and stuff, and then all of a sudden they go back into the future world. They had flashbacks.
There are annual Gargoyle fan conventions.
Yeah.
You guys, there are fan
Still?
conventions. I think
There are
so.
still fan conventions for gargoyles.
No, the last one was held in 09. But they went from 97 to 09.
That's huge.
12 years of fan conventions called the Gathering of the Gargoyles. Which
Oops, sorry. Sorry, repeat what you just said, Anthony.
I said I cannot imagine like going to a Gathering of the Gargoyles convention. It just seems weird. That's all. So, but I think for our own purposes, I would be willing to, and I know this is going to pain you. I'd be willing to push Back to the Future Ren and Stimpy down and put this at 13.
I feel like gargoyles has more staying power. I can do that.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting because I have a feeling that the two remaining are also going to make the top tier. But let's just recap the top tier for a second. Number one, we have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, followed by Doug, Chippendale Rescue Rangers, Animaniacs, DuckTales, Tailspin, Rugrats, Gummy Bears, Spider-Man, Batman the Animated Series, G.I. Joe, Darkwing Duck, Gargoyles, Back to the Future, and rounding out the top 15, Ren and Stimpy.
Okay.
Oh man.
So getting good. I had one note about Gargoyles. I always kind of think about Gargoyles and the Mighty Ducks animated show together.
My
but
God, I forgot about that show.
The Mighty Ducks animated show actually came out after 1994, so it did not make these rankings.
Yeah.
All right, guys. We're getting into two big ones. Those of you that are big cartoon fans are probably expecting these two.
I'm sorry. Can we just really briefly say how awesome it was that the Mighty Ducks in that cartoon flew around in a spaceship shaped like a duck hockey mask?
I mean, that was a great overall,
That's a great show. I don't mean to go off topic, but I just remembered them flying around in that, and that was freaking awesome.
Yeah, it was a good show, and I feel like the Mighty Ducks franchise, like, good job on the hockey team for just making that into, like, oh, we're gonna make a movie with the same name. Like, how many fans did they get from that?
No, yeah.
All right,
guys.
let's get to this because the anticipation is killing me.
We got the heavy hitters, and I did not intentionally save these two for last, but it worked out perfect. So our second to last cartoon for the night.
Okay.
Oh, God.
X-Men.
All right, so I was actually really hoping this would be last. I think that this is number 2, but I almost think that it's like 1A.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know if I really need to explain myself here. Amazing theme song, fantastic villains. I mean, 2 words: Phoenix Saga.
Oh, man.
I mean,
Right.
they were great miniseries that they did. It was just so creative for a cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like in-depth in a way that cartoons hadn't been. Or at least kids' cartoons had never been like that.
Yeah.
One thing that always pissed me off with this show was that at the beginning they showed all the characters fighting each other in the intro, and there were some characters they never actually showed in the show,
Yeah.
and it bothered me.
I just love Gambit. Gambit in this show was awesome.
Gambit was my favorite as well.
I was always a Wolverine guy.
Yeah, you would be.
Yeah. I liked Gambit. The intro episode, I remember there was like Pizza Hut did a promotion where you could get like VHS tapes of episodes of X-Men.
Man.
I had so many toys. I mean,
God, Pizza Hut did the best promotions back in the day.
They really did.
yeah.
Book it.
Land Before Time.
Wow. Jeez.
I think X-Men deserves discussion as number 1.
I'm
Okay.
not willing to put it over Turtles.
Yeah, I'm not willing to put it over Turtles either. I think it's a 1A.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is. What was number 2 for sandwiches? Do you remember?
Is it a breakfast sandwich?
No, it was. I mean, I think this is as close. I think this is probably closer than anything was to the Reuben. Right? Like.
Yeah, I mean, this is why we do it with an odd number of people. I say it's number 1. You guys both say it's below. We don't do 1A on this podcast. It's 1 or it's 2.
I say it's 2.
Hold on. I am open. I am open for debate here. Give me your case for number 1.
I can remember so many episodes of this show, many more than I can remember of Ninja Turtles. Ninja Turtles was good. X-Men had the characters, it had the drama, it had cliffhangers. Remember there was the whole season-long arc where Professor X and Magneto were on that weird area where they didn't have their powers. It ended up being Doctor Strange, and all culminated with the season finale where Doctor Strange, I think his name was Doctor Strange, he kidnapped Cyclops and Jean Grey at their wedding, and then there was the whole thing with they found there was the senator and his watch had been magnetized, and then the Days of Future Past and Bishop and Cable, which they're turning into a movie next year. I mean, just so many good plots. The Dark Phoenix saga.
Is the Rock going to be Bishop? And if not, how big of a failure would that be?
The Rock needs to be Bishop. Oh
Are
my
we gonna have to endure Jubilee?
Jubilee was Jubilee was a bad part of that show.
Jubilee
What
was
is everybody's
terrible.
effing problem with Jubilee? She provided a much needed, just kind of counter drama to everything else.
Counter
It was a
drama
good
as
counterweight.
it's like a baby who wore a yellow jacket and had like sparks fly out of her hands.
Yeah. Magic, dangerous sparks.
Jubilee is like the Melisandre from Game of Thrones of X-Men.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
We just went meta there.
Seriously, HBO could make
Sucks.
an X-Men show like Game of Thrones, and like it would be good. Like X-Men is number 1. And the more I talk about it, the more I think it's number one.
So I'm gonna stick with Turtles as number one. And I'm gonna tell you why. For me personally, it's so hard. The first time I went to Washington D.C. when I was a little kid, I had a camera with me, and it was a film camera, 35 millimeter film camera, and I took pictures of everything, and I still have these pictures at my parents' house, right? And it was a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle camera that had a little watermark of Donatello on the lower right corner of all the pictures.
I remember that.
Which was so fucking brilliant.
It's like Instagram before Instagram.
Because in all of your pictures, there was a Ninja Turtle reminding you which camera you used to take those pictures.
Yeah.
It was so well marketed. It was so pervasive in every part of my childhood. And X-Men was great, but I feel like I had more conversations about which of my friends was which Ninja Turtle than which of my friends was which X-Men character.
So the one point I will give you on that, and I feel like Ninja Turtles did a much better job marketing.
Yeah.
Ninja Turtles was working from a clean slate. X-Men was working from comic books that had defined characters, defined stories. So Ninja Turtles did it. This is like comparing Breaking Bad to Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
X-Men is like Game of Thrones. It was working from a pre-written story.
Yeah.
So for that, I will give Ninja Turtles the very slightest of edge.
Okay.
And I won't give it, but I will compromise with this.
Okay.
So let's put X-Men at 2, and let's get the final one out here. Let's see what the final one is, and let's go from there.
So, I'm curious if you guys. I mean, you guys know what is on here, but I'm curious if you know what this last remaining one is. Do you both know what it is?
No.
Anthony, do you know what the remaining one is?
I'm sure I'll have an aha moment as soon as you
It's a
say
good
it, but
one.
no.
I feel like it's not going to live up to the lively debate of X-Men, but I might be wrong. If you had to guess, either of you, could either of you even have a guess as to what this is?
Jeez, I don't even know. Because I feel like we've done such a good comprehensive view of those cartoons.
So
What
this is
network
one
was
that,
it on?
Turner Networks.
TNT?
It was on Turner Networks. I'm almost positive. Either
The
TV.
Kid?
I think it was on TBS.
I don't know.
So this is one that when you watch it now, it's very political and still relevant.
Oh my god!
By our powers combined,
Oh man, Captain
I
Planet.
am Captain Planet.
Okay, so
We're talking top 5 on Captain Planet, right?
Yeah.
I think you put it right below Doug.
Yeah.
I think Doug stays at 3. I think you put it at 4.
I've been saying for years they need to make a live-action Captain Planet movie.
Yes, they do. Community needs to do it. Community has the cast to do it. They could do it perfectly.
No, not just community, but if I'm just saying, if they actually were like, you know what, we're actually going to make a Captain Planet movie, they'd make a killing off of that because our generation would just flock to the theater to see that.
Flock.
Flock.
And you can just hashtag flock.
Flock. I mean, Captain Planet is fantastic. Great villains. They could do it now. It could be all about fracking. Be perfect.
Great theme song.
Well, and also great voiceovers because you had well, I mean, these were some of the people that voiced some of the villains. Meg Ryan, David Rappaport. Let's
I'm
see
thinking
here.
Michael Rappaport.
Ed Asner, John Ratzenberger.
Oh, Cliffy.
Sting.
I
Martin
can't believe
Sheen.
John Ratzenberger was in that show, by the way.
Yeah,
Based on what I know about
seriously.
his political views, I'm
Yeah.
shocked he was in that show.
Yeah. It's some big time actors.
So I remember when I was in college, this show was on, a rerun of it, so I watched it, and they had this character who was a parody, and not a very well hidden parody of George H.W. Bush. clearly was George Bush.
Oh my gosh,
And,
it was like
Love it. I love
it still holds up.
yeah. I
Um,
think that where you said to put it is a good spot.
I mean, like LeVar Burton was Kwame, like just fantastic.
I remember there were some very good cliffhangers at the end of seasons. This was another show that had great cliffhangers.
Yeah, I remember the episode where they like destroyed Gaia in the home base or whatever,
Yeah,
and they had to like
That's the
go
one I'm
back in
remembering,
time
too.
to undo it.
Wheeler.
Yep.
They also had two very special episodes. One about drug use and one about HIV and AIDS. And the HIV/AIDS one, one of the young man who was infected with HIV was Neil Patrick Harris.
Oh.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
I feel like this was such a like with like the special episodes and like the lessons, like it was just very quintessential.
I mean, I definitely think it's above Chippendale Rescue Rangers. Are we saying above or below Doug?
I think it's below Doug.
This is this is a tough top five.
I think it's below Doug.
I'm gonna put it above Doug, and this is why. I think that this show, again, I just think it was kind of more everywhere. Like it was like Doug was just a great show. It was a great simple show. But
I think there's something to be said for that.
yeah, but like again, like one of the metrics that we're using is just how pervasive this was in the culture at the time. And I feel like Captain Planet was everywhere.
And pulled in Voltron and Power Rangers and those shows where it was like combining to create one big thing.
Yeah, Voltron came way before Captain Planet, though.
Yeah, pulled that stuff in though.
Yeah.
I mean, like one of you says above Doug, one of you says below Doug. So I'm kind of the tiebreaker, I feel like. And I'm on the fence. I feel like this is like when the polls in college football have 4 really good teams and then like a 5th team, but it's like clearly it's just these 4 and that, there's a big divide like we've had the last couple of years. I mean, these top 4, any one of them could be number 1 in any given year.
Yeah. I mean, but this is the thing. I think if you had to say which top 3 could be number 1, I think that Captain Planet above Doug. Like I think Doug is more interchangeable with Chip and Dale and Animaniacs than Captain Planet is.
I think I gotta agree. I love Doug. It's hard to push it down, but
I think Doug is like the top of like the second tier of tier 1.
I didn't have any Doug toys.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's not above X-Men.
No.
No, it's not. But it's as close as any of the others are gonna get.
Yeah, I mean it's, you look right now in our top 5: Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, X-Men, Captain Planet, Doug, and Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers. I think that's about as perfect of a top 5 as you can get. Not to toot our own horns, but I think we did pretty good job. If I had to think of 5 cartoons that define my childhood, I think it's those 5.
Yeah, I mean, I would. I might take Chip and Dale out and put one of the other ones in, but if you said top 4, yeah, I wouldn't have any qualms with that.
So let's just start at the bottom, just to recap what didn't make it, what's
Start
off the
from
board.
bottom.
Starting at the bottom, number 34, Sonic the Hedgehog, followed by Beetlejuice, Addams Family, and Aladdin. Those are the 4 that got off the board.
Bop, bop.
All of which were cartoons based on something that they did not need to be cartoons.
Yeah.
Moving into the second tier, Street Sharks, bringing up the rear of second tier.
It made it, though.
You made it onto the board. Followed by Pro Stars, finishing much lower than I would have expected. Where on Earth is Carmen Sandiego? Goof Troop, Iron Man, Reboot, Garfield and Friends, Ghostbusters, David the Gnome, Bobby's World, and Rocko's Modern Life. Our top 20, so Rocko's Modern Life is number 20, followed by Tiny Toons, Muppet Babies, Ren and Stimpy, and Back to the Future.
Which is the top of tier 2?
That's the top of tier 2. In tier 1, number 15 begins with Gargoyles, then Darkwing Duck, G.I. Joe, Batman the Animated Series, Spider-Man, Gummy Bears comes in at number 10. Our top 10, Gummy Bears at number 10, Rugrats at number 9, Tailspin at number 8, DuckTales at number 7, Animaniacs at number 6, top 5, Chippendale Rescue Rangers, Doug at number 4, Captain Planet at number 3, X-Men number 2, and the champion of our childhood cartoon power rankings, the number 1 of the night, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah.
That's a damn good list.
Yeah.
I have no changes to that list. I think it's right.
Yeah, I second that.
Yeah, now, and I think that, and look, if you've made it all the way through, 1, good for you, and 2, tweet us. Do you have any changes? Do you think that we got this right? Do you think that X-Men should be above Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles? Tweet us at Natty Brohs. Email us, nattybrospodcast@gmail.com. Let us know.
And if you have ideas for more power rankings like these that you want us to spend hours discussing, we like doing these. These are fun. So let us know what you think we should do. I think the one that we're going to get the most contention about is G.I. Joe so low and Chippendale Rescue Rangers so high.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a part of me that knows that people are gonna disagree with Chippendale.
I still love, we talked about Chippendale so long ago. I still think that's a great show. So I'm glad that it made the top 5.
I'm a little apprehensive about it, but I can live. I can live with that.
Yeah.
I think it was the right choice. It's just
and one other note, if you're on the internet and you want to do some research on Doug, there are 2 great articles about Doug. There's one article, I think it's on Gawker, about is Doug racist? And there's another article.
Jeez.
It's not an article. It's pictures of this girl who looks like Doug Funny. It blew up on the internet maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Google Doug Funny girl and you'll see her. She looks just like Doug Funny. It's really kind of sad. People might think it's photoshopped.
Yeah, that's wow. That's gotta be photoshopped because that's really sad. Well, any final thoughts? Any closing comments?
Follow us on Twitter at Natty Brohs. Email us nattybros@gmail.com. Yeah, I think we did a great job. Jeremy, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for letting me on.
Yeah, we're glad we could have you on, and this was a lot of fun. I'm glad we got to do it. So,
yeah, and until next time, YOLO.
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 That's all, folks.